everybody, and welcome to another ActionFeatures.net Toy Talk review. I'm James, as always. In our last review, we handled the Playmates Classic Collection 1990 movie Turtles, and that review went over really well, and we noticed that a lot of people were asking us for more Ninja Turtle reviews. We haven't done a ton of Ninja Turtle reviews. All we've done is the first wave of the Nickelodeon figures, and then those the movie star turtles, not movie star turtles, but the movie Classic Collection figures. Well, the Turtles line is one that Keaton is really into. He collects all the figures, he's really into it, and he loves the line. Blaze is starting to get more into it because we all love that Nickelodeon cartoon. So we thought it'd be fun to add Turtles more into the mix for our reviews, and to kind of handle those reviews a little bit differently, in that it's not really a line that's geared towards me and one that I'm collecting as much. It's more one that's geared for the kids and that they're collecting more. So the opening sequence will be my take on them as an adult collector, what I'm seeing in the figure, and the kids won't see that. They won't see the opening sequence. And then we'll go over to the couch, and it'll really be all about their views on it. See if they even notice things that adult collectors are sometimes griping about with those figures, like lacks of paint apps or articulations or anything like that. Since those toys are really targeted towards kids, it'll be interesting to see if they even notice some of that stuff, or they just really get into it for the toy, which, for the most part, from my experience with collecting these toys with them, they really don't see those things. They just see it as a toy. For today's review, we're taking a look at a line that actually both of us are buying. Both I am buying and the kids are buying, and that is these Nickelodeon original comic book style Turtles. These are a part of the 4.5-inch, I guess it's 4.5-inch line. They're not part of the Classic Collection. But I want them because I love those original Mirage comics, and the kids want them because they saw like the Turtles Forever movie. Blaze is kind of familiar with the Mirage comics, and we all just want a set. So we've got this first set review, but eventually all three of us will have the set. So this will be my take as the adult collector buying the set, and then on the couch we'll get the kid take on it. Now there will be other reviews that I do that are for Turtle stuff that will focus on toys that were made just for adult collectors, like the NECA figures or some of the more classic collection type stuff, but we'll still handle those the same way. But again, for now, we're looking at these Nickelodeon original comic book style Turtles. All four of the Turtles come in the same style of packaging. I'm going to pull out my favorite as usual, and that's Michelangelo. It's got the same kind of packaging as the regular Nick line, like the shape and the design and everything, but it's got a whited out logo, and the back is sort of a purple representation of the old comic book art. And then we've got sort of like some ink spray and stuff like that all around the edges, and green and purple. And in the back, it's gone to black and white. And then up front, we've got original comic book Michelangelo, Ninja Master of Dual Nunchucks. Each one has a saying about them along the bottom. Raphael is the Ninja Master of the Double-Fisted Sai. Leonardo is the Ninja Master of the Katana Swords. And Donatello is the Ninja Master of the Bow Staff. Each one is packaged sort of with their weapons off to their hands. They're not holding them, but they're kind of positioned near their hands. And then we've got a little card inside here which has the art of them all jumping forward from the first Mirage comic, and the Ninja Turtles logo. And on the back of that card, you can kind of see it inside the packaging here. I don't know if that's picking that up well or not. But the flip side of the card is the character-specific art. Like there's a picture of Michelangelo, and then it's got a Michelangelo thing down along the bottom. There's also this little image down here, but they're all Leonardo. They didn't change that amongst different packaging. It's all the same. On the back of the card, it's more figures in the line along the bottom. I'm really a big fan of how many figures Playmates is cramming into these card backs. I was a big fan of that as a kid, seeing lots of different toys released in a line pictured on the back, so you can kind of circle the card back and follow along with what you've got. Not everything is pictured here, but there are a lot of figures pictured here, which is really nice. Then along the top, you've got the Turtles logo again in white, just like the front of the card back. And it states, back in 1984, a single 40-page black and white underground comic redefined the comic book industry and created a worldwide phenomenon. For 30 years, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles have entertained and thrilled legions of fans across the globe, and they're still going strong. And then we've got a dedicated card art for each one of them, and a little bio for each character. Kind of flip these around. I'm not going to read all these out. If you want to check out the link in the info section, I'll have a picture of each one close up so you can read them. I've always, even as a kid, I love, well, I guess more as a kid than an adult, I loved to clip and collect these file card type of things, and it's something you don't see on packaging a lot nowadays. I know it's on some of the Turtles figures and not on other ones, but I was really happy to see it on these dedicated spaces on each card back. As you can see, my Raphael's already open, that's why he's flopping around. So that's all of them packaged up. I really like the packaging. I like that it's distinct to this line. They've made it look different, so that way when you're digging through the shelves, I'm losing one of them, you're not, these jump out at you. You know when you're seeing these figures because this white logo is different than everything else. I really like that it's got the dedicated card back art that looks like old comics and things. And even though it's Leonardo across every single package, it's still neat that it's a black and white image of a turtle. Really, really neat packaging. But for now, let's get these guys out and take a look at them loose. Okay, so here we have all 4 turtles out of the box. Immediately, the first thing that you're going to notice is that all 4 of them have the same body. The only difference being the heads. So if you're looking for sort of more unique elements between each release, it's not there. It's going to be the 4 basic bodies, all the same, with just heads to differentiate them. So especially if you were to lose these weapons, it's going to be kind of tough for you to tell which turtle is which. So I would not suggest putting those weapons away unless you can remember the facial expressions of each one. The facial expressions are different, just like it seems like every turtle release, there's a slight change to each face. We see that Leonardo is fully closed, there's no teeth showing. Raphael, only the left side of his face is showing teeth. On Donatello, it's the right side, and then on Mikey, it's both sides you see teeth. So if you do lose the weapons, that's the way to tell them apart. Since these are comic turtles, it's not going to have the different colored headbands. Let's pull one of these guys off to the side, and we'll take a look at the articulation before we talk too much more about the figure. And you know I'm going to pick Mikey. Alright, let's tighten him up just a little bit here. There we go. Articulation-wise, we're looking at a ball-jointed knee. It's got a hinge, and then it inserts and does a swivel at the top there, right where it meets the knee pad. Make sure you're seeing that good, yeah. So it can go up and down and swivel around. The hip joint is the same thing, where it hinges out and then swivels around. There's no kind of waist joint or anything like that. The shoulder is the same deal, where it hinges up and down and then swivels around. The elbow is the same thing, hinges in and out and then around. There is no wrist joint, we're going to talk about that in a second. And the head is mounted on a ball, so it just pops right on there. The missing wrist joint is a big detriment to these figures, I think. You can't really get a lot of good weapons posing because the arms are sculpted in such a way where the articulation swings in and out with the hand down. If this hand was placed the other way, and it was up and down with the hand situated like this, you could get a lot more decent poses out of these, but as it stands now, it's really tough to make them look natural with the weapons, and that to me is kind of a disappointment. I think that they really hit all the articulation points really well on the first wave of Nicktoons Turtles, and then also the battle shells and stuff like that. They did a great job on those, and those have the wrist joints, and you can get a lot more decent poses and more like natural look to them thanks to that wrist joint. So I'm really disappointed that the wrist joint's gone from here. There they are next to each other if you wanted to see the scale real quick between this and a regular Nicktoons turtle. Sculpt wise though, even though the articulation point is missing, I really do like the sculpt. I think it's well done. It has a lot of like scratchy texture lines here and there where it makes it look like it's a drawing. Now these lines in the prototype were kind of painted in, and so it looked more like the drawings, sort of like the NECA figures had the lines sort of painted in. But this is a $9 figure, so it's not going to be overloaded with paint apps. I understand that. But the texturing that they do have, it catches shadows and such in such a way that it almost looks as if it were painted. I'm trying to get it to focus in there. There you go. You see how it catches that on the shell? It looks almost like it's got the shading lines. I think that is really well done. And I do like the proportions and the look of him. He does really look like the old Eastman and Laird art with the big feet and the shell that's kind of, I don't know, it looks almost unfinished. I really like the look of the sculpt. I think it was, whoever did the sculpting on it definitely did their best to match that Eastman and Laird look and put some real effort into making this look like that. I think that the texture lines do get a little overboard on the face. It almost looks like scarring in some places, especially across the nose. But overall, for being a $9 figure, you're getting a pretty good Eastman & Laird sculpt. Paint-wise, we've already sort of talked about it with the lack of the lines, but there isn't a lot of paint apps going on here. He's got the knee pads that are painted, the chest. I think the wristband is painted. The mask is actually molded in red plastic, and it's part of the sculpt, and then the shell is painted on there. The green that they used for the skin is a pretty dark green. It's much darker than the NECA figures, and it's molded in that color entirely. So it doesn't quite have the same impact that the NECA figures do of looking like art, like a drawing come to life. This looks more like a real life skin as opposed to trying to mimic art, if that kind of makes sense. I don't know if that comes across as weird or what, but since this is painted on and then the texture lines and everything, it really looks like a three-dimensional art piece, whereas this looks like they're trying to make them look realistic. Each turtle comes with their unique weapons, and they have no paint apps on these weapons, which again is kind of a bummer, but you get kind of used to that with Ninja Turtles, the weapons not having paint apps. At least they molded the two that are made out of wood in a brown color, and the two that are made out of metal in a silver color. These are not reuses of other Nicktoons weapons as far as I can tell. They look like new unique sculpts. Mikey's got both his chucks. They're a little bit big for him. The chains are just molded in there in the same plastic. They're not like a real chain or anything like that. Donnie's got the braiding or the banding sculpted on there, which is not painted. Donnie has the most trouble with his weapon because he can't really do the two-handed bow hold since he's missing that articulation. You can really just get it in one. You can kind of force two onto there, but it just doesn't look good. Leo's swords are nicely done, but again, without that wrist joint, you can't get a ton of posing out of him. Raph's size seem a bit on the big side, and you can't get that thing where he puts his hands within the two crooks on the extra prongs and gets the blades going out from between his fingers. You can't get that look due to the size of them and the fact that his hands aren't really sculpted to do that. Get them all going to the side here again. The other drawback of these, and the thing I was kind of disappointed by, is that you can't store their weapons. I've always loved the fact that the turtles could store their weapons on them, and these figures can't. The most you can really do is kind of force Raphael's size into the sides of the belt, because the belt is a separate piece that's glued on, and you can kind of force Raph's size into there and have it look kind of natural, but the rest, it just doesn't make sense. I don't think there's any way of getting Mikey's chucks crammed in there, and there's nothing on the back of either Donatello or Leonardo for them to put their weapons away. So that's another bit of a bummer. But again, these are $8, $9, whatever mass market figures. And I think that we've been kind of spoiled by how great the NECA figures were to expect, you know, that kind of quality out of these is just not going to happen. These are toys that are marketed towards kids, and they're cheap mass market items, so they're not going to be overloaded with extras. For what they are, I think they're really, really cool. I love the fact that they're in scale with other turtles. That's the one thing about the NECA figures, is that they're not really in scale with anything else. So if you wanted to do like the Turtles Forever type thing, where you're putting multiple turtles from multiple lines in here, it just wouldn't look right with those NECAs crammed in with other styles. So it's cool to have a set of turtles that fits with the other turtles. Overall, I'm pretty pleased with them. The paintwork across the board, even though there's not much of it, is pretty nice. I have a little bit of glop on Raph, but other than that, I didn't have any QC problems, any loose joints or stuff popping apart or doubled up limbs or anything like that. So overall, I'm pretty pleased, and I think they look pretty cool on the shelf. They're not up to NECA quality, no, but they are still pretty sweet. So now that I'm done, let's take them over to the couch and see what the boys think of them. Hey everybody, we're over here at the couch now, and the boys are going to give their thoughts on the Playmates, I guess they're still called Nickelodeon Turtles, original comic figures. You've already heard my thoughts in the opening sequence, and now Keaton, who is, how old? You guys stand up straight so you can see you good. Keaton is, what's your age?
7.
That's right, and Blaze is?
12.
Alright, so they're going to give their thoughts on these figures, sort of as the younger collector. I've already given kind of my thoughts, and then we'll kind of see if the things that I talked about are the same things they talked about, or what their thoughts are. Which one of you guys wants to... Well, I guess you can go at the same time,
No,
you know.
you can go first.
No, you can go back and forth at the same time. Blaze can say something first if he wants.
I kind of like that they're kind of like yeah. I like that they're like NECA turtles, except they're more where the kids can play with them more, and they're less expensive.
Definitely less expensive than NECA figures for sure.
So it's kind of like the NECA Mirage turtles for kids.
What do you think about them, Keith?
I like that you can tell them apart by their faces.
Yeah, that is nice. That they're
different face.
That they each have a different expression
on mouths.
Yeah. Because it's important that when you get the turtles and you lose the accessories, or don't lose them, or if you take them out, that you still have a way of telling them apart. Right. In the old Mirage comic, it's really tough to tell them apart without weapons. But they're drawn, so they always can be drawn with their weapons. But these aren't drawings. You're going to lose the weapons sometimes and put them in a bin or something like that. You want to hold yours up too there, Keith? So if you lose the weapons, you got to be able to know those faces. So have you already memorized their faces?
Yep.
All right. What do you guys think about the articulation and things like that?
I think the articulation's really nice. You kind of have to have them in a certain angle, though, to where they can hold their weapons upright. Like.
Oh, because of the wrist?
Right.
What do you think of it, Keats?
I think the arms should be a little tighter.
They're a little loose? You think they're a little loose? Interesting.
Because whenever I put the sword in the
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you were saying that the hands don't grip the swords as well as you'd like. It's important to you. You always have weapons in their hands, it seems like. You like to have your weapons placed all over the figures. So yeah, the fact that the hands couldn't hold the weapon as well and they're kind of flopping around when you go to use them is kind of a drawback for you. Now, I noticed that you've tucked the sword in the side here on this figure. Now, usually your turtles have ways you can store the weapons, and these don't. How do you feel about that?
I guess it works more for this kind of these types of figures.
Yeah.
Well, I got my way.
Yeah, you have a way. You stuck it in the sides. Yeah, that's how you... But you've kind of found your own way of storing the weapons, because there's no way of storing the weapons on these figures. So if you were to change anything on these figures, would there be anything that you would change, or you're pretty happy with them the way they are?
I'll just change 2 things.
What 2 things would you change about these figures?
I'll change the hand.
The hand, make them tighter.
And make the belt a little looser so you can put the sword in the back instead.
That's maybe make a space or something for the swords to go in. Blaze, if you were going to change anything about these figures, what would you change?
I'd probably change the arm. I can't remember the word.
Articulation?
Yeah, articulation.
So that they can move their wrists. But other than that, are you guys pretty happy with these guys?
With these.
Would you think that these are a good value at $9, or would you think that they're too expensive or not expensive enough, or what do you think?
I think they're just the right price.
Just the right price?
And they have the same bodies, but it kind of works for the Mirage Turtles since they're all kind of the same drawn in the comics.
That's true. So you did notice that the bodies were the same,
right.
And the head's the only thing that's different amongst the figures. Do you like the way these interact with your other turtles?
Yes.
Okay, so these would be things that you could still use with your other turtles.
Right, like another dimension or something like that.
Yeah, the fact that these are based off art isn't really like a drawback for you guys. This would still work with your other turtles.
Yeah.
I can use the other bad guys with those turtles.
Definitely. You can use anything you want with these turtles, right? Alright, so you guys recommend these? You like them?
Yeah.
They think they're cool figures? Blaze, I went ahead and gave this first set to the kids. That way they could really get a feel of how the figures feel. Blaze got Raphael, which is his favorite, and Donatello. And Keaton got Michelangelo, which is his favorite, and Leonardo. And so they each got 2 now. And so you guys think you're going to pick up the other 2 of each one? You definitely get full sets.
Definitely.
Okay, cool. So, the packaging. You saw the packaging earlier. How it says the white logo instead of the other logo on it. I forgot to show you guys. But the packaging's a little bit different. It has like an image of the turtles drawn from the comic. You remember seeing it now.
I seen on your phone.
Yeah, and then it's got the white logo instead of the colored-in logo.
Yeah, okay.
What do you guys think about the packaging being different?
I think it's really cool. It fits these toys.
Yeah. Probably makes it easier when you guys go into a store and stuff, or for kids to go into a store to look for those in the pegs. You know, if something looks different, it's easier to spot. Alright, so you guys go ahead and give what you think. Recommend them, don't recommend them, whatever you want to do.
Definitely recommend these. They're a unique sculpt. And I like that they didn't just reuse... I like that they didn't just reuse the other turtles' weapons. They gave, like, all of them have new weapons. They're not just reused
good point.
ones.
They are new weapons.
I'm not sure Mikey's might be the...
No, Mikey's are new too. They're all new. Well, I don't think I mentioned this in the opening sequence, but Leo's swords are actually 2 different swords, too. Right. They are 2 different lengths. Like, the length of the blade and the length of the handle is different on each sword.
I actually had the same problem with the sword Keaton's having with my original Leonardo.
Where it would flop out?
Right, I have the same problem with my original.
I am noticing what you're saying, that it does flop around in there quite a bit. Alright, so I guess that's it for this one, right?
Yep.
There'll be more turtle videos to come. I do want to say really quick here, and I want to make sure I get his name right. Okay, I thought it was that, but I want to make sure. I wanted to say a quick hello to Adam John Harrison, who's a fan of our videos, and he's been very, very nice on Facebook and things, and we really thank him for the support, and we thank everybody for the support, for tuning in and subscribing or whatever. So, hey Adam, and I guess we'll see everybody next time, right?
Yep.
See you guys.
Bye.